Coming up on today's episode.
So I found, that could be true, which, it wouldn't surprise me how football clubs are run. ESL, here we go. Where do we start with this? Patrick Vieira, Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry. Having said that, this is Latin, he probably might go out his own way, so it can change just like that. And obviously there's 5 more games to go, so hopefully we'll get some big scores, if you like, from there. Moment for him, potentially, hopefully he can kick on now as well. The profile of player that we might need is more of a quicker centre backs to complement us being vulnerable to the counter-attack, for example. Yes guys, welcome back to TIFC. You're watching another episode of the Premier League Appetiser Show. Coming up on today's episode, we're talking all things injury news, which is some positive news and negative news for teams all across the division. We're also talking about Indy versus the rest of the world, which we'll be talking over Game Week 32 and Game Week 33 results, which are very, very interesting actually. Going into the final stages of the season, we're also reviewing Game Week 32 and 33 fixtures and results, should I say, and also going to be looking over other news, and that's where we're going to be starting. Before we dive into other news, I need you all to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell, bosh, and that will help my channel grow massively, and I would massively appreciate that. Let's dive into the video. Right, we're going to start off with some other news, which there's loads and loads to talk about, guys, so I'm going to try and nail lots of different topics, maybe not necessarily talk about them too much because there's so much to talk about, and we didn't have an episode last week, so I'm trying to cover bits and bobs from last week as well. The reason why we didn't have an episode last week is because how the fixtures landed. There's a game every day and there was just no time in between to record and get a video out, so I thought I'd just do a larger one at the back end of Game Week 33. So, ESL, here we go. Where do we start with this? First of all, everyone should have heard of this. European Super League, devised by 12 founder members, 6 from the Premier League, 3 from Spain and 3 from Italy. There was a few others that are sort of interested but declined, i.e. PSG and Bayern Munich. And within sort of 48 hours, it was just literally the fans almost rioted and protested against it. The media, all the broadcasters, players, managers are all against it, and eventually the owners, and I will say in particular, I will mainly be talking about the 6 owners in England and 6 teams. They've had a massive backlash, and in some ways I can't believe they didn't foresee this happening, but they must have not foreseen this happening because they would have anticipated this backlash. However, on the back of that, there's obviously been lots of negative press for those individuals involved, and people that are sort of higher in terms of the hierarchy, should I say, at those clubs. So Ed Woodward, on the back of it, has resigned at Manchester United. He'll be stepping out at the end of the season, end of sort of 2021, should I say. John W. Hendry, the owner of Liverpool, he has come out and done an apology, a video which I'm sure everyone's seen online. Joel Glazer at Manchester United, he's come out and apologised, and there's been others as well. Whether apologies are enough, it definitely isn't enough. They need to prove themselves in different ways, whether it be supporting the team more, coming to the games more, helping with finances, that side of thing in terms of transfers, etc. It's going to take a long time for fans in particular to sort of gain their trust again, because it really was dishonest and deceitful what they did. So yeah, that sort of happened, and then on the back of that, the other 14 Premier League clubs had a vote sort of a day or two later after it was all sort of squashed, if you like, whether to sanction these clubs, these owners, etc. And one of the things is, should they all be expelled? Should they all be relegated from the league? Should they get massive fines, etc.? There's lots of things going down at the moment, which we won't know until more sort of talks have happened between club owners, executives, all that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of the ESL side of things. Okay, moving on to some actual football news. The EFL Cup final happened this weekend between Manchester City and Spurs, which Man City won 1-0. Laporte scored the goal. He definitely shouldn't have been on the pitch. He should have had 2 yellow cards prior to that. That's another story altogether. That's Manchester City's 4th EFL Cup in a row now, so that's like some achievement. I think they've got the record now, joint with Liverpool in terms of EFL Cup trophies with 8. On top of that, there was FA Cup final, so FA Cup semi-finals the first weekend. So Man City actually got knocked out of that, so the quadruple isn't on anymore. Leicester beat Southampton and Chelsea beat Manchester City. So it's a Leicester-Chelsea final and the FA Cup final, which would be a really, really good game actually. Obviously, I would like Leicester to win because I really like, I'm a massive fan of Brendan Rodgers, if you guys didn't know already. But nevertheless, it's just pleasing that Man City aren't there. You can do that what you like. On the back of the ESL talk and chat, UEFA were planning to reformat the Champions League, and they have come out and done that, albeit a few days later on after the ESL saga sort of was squashed. There's going to be basically more games. The format's going to change as of 2024. I think there's now going to be 10 games in the group stage as opposed to 6. And yes, I'm not sure exactly all the ins and outs of it, but it's more games for the players. I don't know how it's going to fit in terms of the scheduling. Obviously, we've got the domestic leagues in there as well. It's going to be crazy, but there's been some negative press about that as well. Thomas Tuchel's come out and said if anyone can consult with the managers, anyone can consult with the players. Ilkay Gundogan come out later on that evening and said this is ridiculous. Why have you not consulted the players? There's more games on the players. The bodies, it's difficult enough now for the bodies sort of to take playing every 3 days, and you're asking us to play even more games, which is ridiculous. So yes, there's been negative press about that, and to be honest with you, because of the backlash of the ESL, the new Champions League format hasn't really had the attention and as much negative press as it should do. I've just mentioned Gundogan and Thomas Tuchel. There has been others as well, like Pep Guardiola, for example. Moving on with the fans. The fans have protested. I mentioned earlier on about the fans protesting against the ESL, but also on the back of that, the backlash in terms of the owners and sort of chief executives and board members, etc. They've protested, and Man United, for example, they had plenty of fans out on the Saturday wanting the Glazers out, and there's other teams that wanted board members out, etc. Owners to sell their club, all that kind of thing. Fans have been heard, which is a really, really positive thing, and hopefully there will be the people that are accountable for this stupid idea of ESL will be punished ultimately. David Moyes made some interesting comments regarding on the back of the ESL news. So he mentioned that maybe we should have 2 Premier Leagues, Premier League 1 and a Premier League 2, but the Premier Leagues, both divisions should have 18 teams in it, which I thought was quite interesting. But he also mentioned that Rangers and Celtic should be introduced into the Premier League 2. Obviously it's going to generate more income for those 2 teams, but they have got huge fan bases already. And I think just why not make it sort of British Isles Premier League, if you like, which I thought was an interesting comment, and I'm not opposed to it or anything. I think of all the ideas that happened this week, that's probably one of the best ones, if not the best one, which I thought was interesting. Whether that happens or not, I have to watch this space. The other huge news that sort of happened over the last week to 10 days is Jose Mourinho has been sacked at Spurs. I think Spurs have come out and said the results wasn't good enough, so that was the reason why he got sacked. I think it was Daniel Levy that came out and said that. Harry Kane, on the back of that, leading up to the cup final, he did an interview saying that only found out 5-10 minutes before it was released sort of to the press, which I found, that could be true, which, it wouldn't surprise me how football clubs are run. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. Jose Mourinho was brought in to win trophies at Spurs, and he got them to the final and didn't get the opportunity to win it. So there's something going on there. The reasoning and the timing is very odd. Doesn't make any sense to me. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts actually. What was the reason, in your opinion, why Jose was sacked the time he was sacked? 6 days before a cup final, I think it was only 5 points outside the top 4 at the time. Bizarre, really, really bizarre. And obviously the job specification would have been to win trophies, and he didn't get an opportunity to do that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop it in the comments below. Moving on to some international news. I'm not going to touch on this too much, but Ryan Giggs has been charged for ABH, ex-Manchester United and Wales player. He apparently has been assaulting, again allegedly, a woman in her 30s, a woman in her 20s. And on the back of that, Wales have decided that he will not manage Wales in the Euros. So the assistant, Robert Page, I believe, he is now going to be taking charge, which is absolutely gutting. Obviously, if Giggs is guilty in this sense, then that's absolutely fine. But just thinking from Ryan Giggs' point of view, he's an elite player for Wales, but Wales wasn't very good when he played, and he never got an opportunity to go to a major tournament. Now he's a Wales manager, and he's at a major tournament, and he's not getting an opportunity to lead them there as well. So it's a bit gutting in that sense. A couple of other things. Daniel Ek, who is the owner of Spotify, he has declared some interest. Well, firstly, there was some interest and rumours going around over the weekend. He was interested possibly in buying Arsenal Football Club if Stan Kroenke was willing to sell. Now, on the back of that, yesterday, it's emerged that he is absolutely serious about buying the club, and he's going to be helped by sort of 3 Arsenal legends, ex-players, Patrick Vieira, Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry. And whether Stan Kroenke actually wants to sell the club or not, I don't know. What I've heard is that he absolutely doesn't really want to sell the club at all. However, money does talk at the end of the day, and if a good offer comes in and the backlash of what he has been getting, then potentially a deal could be struck. Last thing, guys, before we move on to some injury news. Interesting news, it came out yesterday. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, has allegedly got a stake in a betting company based in Malta. Now, this was really bizarre sort of news, really. Obviously, players, they're not allowed to bet in these sort of levels of football, down to sort of recreational football. And they're not allowed to sort of, there's loads of different, 14.1, 14.2 of these are different articles that they're not allowed to be involved in betting. And we remember recently we spoke about Kieran Trippier potentially helping a friend to say, lump on, I'm going to be making a move to Atletico in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. You're not allowed to get involved in betting at all because it's basically match fixing. So apparently he's got a stake in a betting company in Malta, and if he's found guilty, he would automatically get a 3-year ban, which effectively probably end his career, given the fact he's, I think, 39, 40 years old already. So I can't imagine him hanging around for 3 years and then wanting to play for another year or two. I mean, having said that, this is Zlatan, he probably want to go out his own way. So that rounds up all other news, guys. There's loads that's spoken about there over the last sort of week to 10 days. Hit the comment section below if you want to get involved in the chat as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Jose, the ESL, the Zlatan situation, anything I haven't covered as well. Moving on to some injury news next then. Positive and negative news. So De Bruyne and Kane both got injured in their last Premier League game, which was a week before the EFL Cup final. Both missed the midweek game, which they played in the league. However, both were fit for the EFL Cup final. So they were both injured for a while. Now they're back fit, which is good news for both of them. Matt Phillips, a Liverpool centre-half, he is injured. He's picked up a hamstring injury. He missed Liverpool's last game as well. He might miss the next game as well, we're not sure yet. In some positive news, Raul Jimenez is close to return for Wolves. I don't know what that means in terms of close return. That could mean 3 weeks, it could mean a month, it could mean 10 days, I don't know. But Nuno has said that they won't rush him back. Obviously, it's a very delicate area of the body, i.e. the head. So I imagine there has to be loads of protocols and loads of tests done in terms of him heading the ball, maybe getting a bit of contact from players, etc. Just so he's completely safe, his family can feel peace of mind going into games, etc. And even for himself, actually. And the last one, Lacazette picked up a hamstring injury in the last game as well, against Fulham, I believe. So that rounds up injury news. I'm sure there's one or two other injuries as well that I might have missed there, guys, but they're sort of the bulk and the main parts of it. Going to move on to Indy versus the rest of the world now. I'm going to go back to Game Week 32, then I'm going to talk about Game Week 33, guys. So there's 2 lots to talk about this time around. For Game Week 32, my opponent, his name was Harry Hogg. Now he is, or was should I say, an ex-colleague of mine who used to work with me at Norwich City, a good lad actually, local lad. He got involved, and let's just say there was an absolute score fest here in terms of both players, but one player in particular. Now remember the week before I lost my lead, so going into Game Week 32 the scores were Indy on 247 and the rest of the world on 249, so I was losing by 2. So there's a couple of weeks to talk about here, guys, so we'll go through Game Week 32, which is Harry Hogg. Now Everton versus Spurs, I went for a 2-1 win to Spurs, excuse me, and Harry went for a 1-1 draw. It finished 2-2, so he picks up 2, picked up 0. Newcastle versus West Ham, we both went for West Ham wins. I went 2-1, he went 3-2. Newcastle ended up winning the game 3-1, I believe. 3-2, should I say, sorry. Wolves versus Sheffield United, we both went for Wolves wins. I went for a 2-1 win. he went for a 1-0 win to Wolves. So he picks up 5 and I picked up 2. So Harry's off to a good start there, already up to 7, I'm on 2. Arsenal versus Fulham, both went for Arsenal wins. I went 3-1, he went 2-0, finished 1-1. We both pick up zip. Man United versus Burnley, I went for a 2-1, a tight affair for United. Winning that game 2-1, he went for a 3-1 win to Burnley. So he picks up another 5, I picked up 2. He's flying at the moment. Leeds versus Liverpool, I went for a 3-2 win to Liverpool, he went 0-0. Don't know why he thought it would be 0-0, but it turns out he was semi-right, he finished 1-1, so he picked up another 2, I picked up 0. Chelsea versus Brighton, I went for a 2-1 to Chelsea, he went 2-0, finished 0-0, so 0 points apiece. Spurs versus Southampton, obviously Spurs had a double game week this time round. And it finished 2-1 to Spurs, should I say, so we both picked up 5 points there. Villa versus Manchester City, both went for Manchester City wins. I went for a 2-1 win to Manchester City, and he went for a 1-0 win to Manchester City. So I picked up 5 and he picked up 2. And then moving on to the Leicester versus West Brom game, I've gone for a 2-1 win to Leicester. He's gone 3-2 to Leicester and finished 3-0 to Leicester. They both picked up 2 points. So scores on the doors for game week 32 are as follows, guys. So I've picked up a decent, healthy 16 points, which I'm really, really pleased about. You know, it's probably just above average. But Harry, for the rest of the world, has picked up 23 points, which is, I think that is the highest score of the season by any player, which, you know, that deserves a little round of applause. Fair play to Harry. Picked up 23 points. There were some bizarre predictions. I mean, the Leeds-Liverpool 0-0, I thought, what is he doing there? But he's picked up 2 points, which is fair play to him. So, what's that done for the cumulative scores going into game week 33? India's moved on to 263 points, and the rest of the world have moved on to 272. So it's now a 9-point lead going into game week 33. Now, I keep saying it, as the weeks go on, it's getting more and more crucial, that lead, whether it be obviously extended or closing back. And obviously in this case here, the rest of the world have increased their lead to 9 points. Now going into game week 33 results, there is only 8 games, 8 fixtures, so we'll just talk about them. This time round I had another opponent on. His name is Max Rigsby. He's an ex-player of mine at Norwich as well. Good lad, local lad as well actually. Going to dive straight into the results now. Arsenal versus Everton, I went for a 1-1, he went for a 2-1 win to Arsenal and finished 1-0 to Everton, a really good win for Everton, so we both picked up 0. Liverpool versus Newcastle, I went for 3-1 Liverpool, he went 3-0 Liverpool, and it finished 1-1, so again 0 points apiece. Chelsea versus West Ham, both went for 2-1 wins to Chelsea, finished 1-0 to Chelsea, so we both picked up 2 off the mark. Sheffield United versus Brighton, both went for Brighton wins, I went 2-1 to Brighton, he went 1-0 and actually finished 1-0 to Sheffield United, so again we both picked up 0. Wolves versus Burnley, arguably the most shocked result of the weekend. We both went for 2-1 wins to to Wolves, should I say, sorry, and they finished 4-0 to Burnley. At 4-0, I can't remember the last time Burnley ever scored 4 in the Premier League, let alone away from home, should I say. So again, we picked up 0 points. Not great, guys, not great at all. Leeds versus Man United, both went for Man United wins. I went 3-2, he went 3-1, finished 0-0. So again, 0 points apiece. This is not great at all in terms of the scores. Villa versus West Brom, you think, nice win for Villa here. I went for 3-1 win to Villa, he went 2-1 to Villa. Finished Desmond 2-2, didn't it? So again, you guessed it, 0 points apiece. Guys, this is awful, really is awful. Last but not least, Leicester versus Palace. Now they finished 2-1 to Leicester. Max went for a 2-0 win, so he picks up 2, and I went for a 2-1 win to Leicester. So I picked up 5, so both picked up some points right at the end there, so not a very high scoring affair. So what that means for the overall score, that moves India onto 270 and it moves the rest of the world onto 276. So I've just trimmed 3 back, which is only meaning the lead is only 6 points, and obviously I have a different guest on next week. But yeah guys, it's a big swing there, really. You know, 3-4 weeks ago I had a 6-point lead and now all of a sudden I'm 6 points behind, so it can change just like that. And obviously there's 5 more games to go, game weeks to go, so hopefully we'll get some big scores, if you like, in there. So moving on to game week 32 results, and we're just briefly going to touch through those and then we'll talk about game week 33 as well. Okay, game week 32 results then. Let's just move on to that. So we touched on the Spurs Everton game, finished 2-2. came with a brace. 6 of a brace didn't really help any team, considering they're both obviously going through arguably the Champions League. Spurs' case, definitely. Everton are just European positions. Didn't see the game, but obviously both have scored a brace, that's good for them. Wolves versus Sheffield United finished 1-0 to Wolves, good result for them. Just dents Sheffield United's relegation. Newcastle versus West Ham, this was an entertaining game, shall I say. Newcastle turned it around right at the end. They were 2-0 up. Forward back to 2-2. West Ham had a play sent off in Dawson, and then scored a late goal, made it 3-2. Ended up winning the game, so a massive win for Newcastle there. On the Sunday, Arsenal versus Fulham finished 1-1. Late equaliser for Arsenal. They were awful apparently in that game, and Fulham a bit unlucky not to win the game. And Nketiah scoring late on. And then Man United versus Burnley finished 3-1 to Man United. Good win for them. Greenwood involved, Cavani involved. Really good win for them. After sort of Burnley coming back and making it 1-1. Tarkowski actually scoring as well. And actually, just want to add, I think Man United hadn't beaten Burnley at home for the 4 previous meetings. So I think it's 2015 was the last time Man United actually beat Burnley at home, which is really odd. But fair play to Burnley. Moving on to the Monday night, Leeds versus Liverpool finished 1-1. Late goal from Llorente, picking up a point for Leeds, and a deserved point, I would suggest. Tuesday game, Chelsea versus Brighton finished 0-0. We'll move on from that game straight away. Wednesday, there was a couple of games, Villa versus Manchester City, finished 2-1 to City. John McGinn actually put them 1-0 up inside the first 20 seconds, but Man City turned it around and won the game 2-1. Spurs under Ryan Mason, we should have touched on that earlier actually, he is the interim boss until the end of the season. Obviously he's a very young person, ex-player as well at the club, so he knows the club. I think he's the youngest ever manager in the Premier League as well at the age of 29, so that's some achievement, albeit it'll only be for a few games, half a dozen games or so. So they won their game 2-1, goals from Son in the 90th minute scored a penalty, and Bale before that turning it around after going 1-0 down. Leicester won 3-0 against West Brom, a really dismal performance from West Brom actually, considering what they're fighting for and what's at stake. Good win for Leicester, Vardy and Nacho involved, as they always seem to be at the moment. Yeah, it's game week 32 results finished now, guys, so they're going to be on to game week 33. Arsenal vs Everton finished 1-0 to Everton on the Friday night game. Burnham scored an own goal and Barrows an own goal. It'd be interesting to see actually what goalkeepers' thoughts are on this. So if you're a goalkeeper and you're watching this and you've got a bit about you, a bit of knowledge, how much of a howler was that from Bernd Leno, or wasn't it a howler? I don't know, maybe. Leave some thoughts below, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, I'm not going to give my opinion because I don't want to sway anyone in their sort of opinions or anything like that. But it'd be interesting to know your thoughts there. And obviously that keeps Everton really in amongst the European hunt. Moving on to Saturday, then Liverpool versus Newcastle finished 1-1. Liverpool should have been 7-4 up at half time. It was that much of a chance. Or there's lots of chances, should I say, in the game, especially in the first half. Jota could have had a hat-trick, Salah could have had a hat-trick, Mane could have had a brace, Firmino could have had 1 or 2. Lots of opportunities. And Newcastle had their own as well, they had goal disallowed, etc. It finished 1-1. Late drama at the end actually. Newcastle had equalised through Callum Wilson, substitute had come on in the game, but it's disallowed for what the law is. When he touches your arm and leads to a goal, then the goal gets disallowed, which is ridiculous. His body just here, and you couldn't, wasn't in an unnatural position like this or anything. But goal was disallowed. That was in the sort of the 91st minute. So you can imagine Newcastle being on a massive high when they've equalised, and then all of a sudden goes to VAR and they're massively deflated. However, there was 5 minutes of injury time, and fair play to them. They stuck at it. They showed a lot of character and a belief, and they equalised through Joe Willock in the 94th minute. So deserved a point in the end, especially in the second half performance. Moving on to Sunday, Villa versus West Brom. This game finished 2-2. Late goal from Keenan Davis, so shout out to Keenan Davis. He got his first Premier League goal. First Premier League goal, and obviously first goal for Aston Villa in the Premier League as well. So huge moment for him potentially. Hopefully he can kick on now as well. Big blow for West Brom. Looked like they were going to pick up 3 valuable points, but I've been saying this for a while. They're going down anyways. Even if they've done well to sort of bring back this close, if I'm totally honest. Leeds vs Man United finished 0-0. Now I thought this would be an absolute goal fest. Maybe not a 6-2 game, but maybe something like a 3-2 to someone. But yeah, it was 0-0. There wasn't too many chances for either team really. I mean, United probably had 3-4 more than what Leeds did, and Bruno Fernandes probably had the best chance of the game, just sort of pulled it wide. Nevertheless, United still unbeaten, 24 games away from home, fantastic. And obviously Leeds picked up another point, which is good for them, keeps them in the top 10. Wolves versus Burnley finished 4-0 to Burnley. I touched on this earlier, what a result for Burnley. And the transformation over the last 10 weeks or so has been brilliant to watch. I was having a conversation with someone actually this weekend about, I think when the new owner came in, they must have had about 16, 18 games left of the season, something like that. And they were around the relegation zone. They weren't completely safe. They're not completely safe now either. But imagine one of the criteria that the owner would have said to Sean Dyson, like, can we play a bit more expansive? Can we play a bit more attacking? How can we get more goals in the team? How can we create more chances? How can we be not seen as the traditional Burnley? And I think maybe the owner might have had this conversation. I'm just speculating here. He might have said, right, we've got 16 games left this season. Let's try the next 10 games. Let's try and play differently. Still, stick to some of our principles, but let's play a bit more gung ho, if you like. And then if we're still really flirting with relegation in the last 6 games, we can revert back to how we played before and hopefully pick up the results and then stay in the division. I think they're going to be safe now anyway, but they play really, really expansive. Burnley have massively changed their style, and this is really, really, really important for them going forward. The other thing to sort of mention as well, and again this is purely speculation, if they are going to change their style going forward, they need to know what players can play this way. So by having this sort of 10, 12 game sample, might be to the end of the season now, so say 16 games, they can say, right, okay, if Charlie Taylor and Matt Loughton are going to bomb forward, that's obviously going to leave our 2 centre-halves exposed. So does that mean the profile of player that we might need is more of a quicker centre-backs to complement us being vulnerable to the counter-attack, for example? So a good win for them. And then moving on to the Monday night game, Leicester versus Crystal Palace. Leicester won the game 2-1, and Nacho scored a brilliant goal. Shifts the ball, short back lift, bang, straight into the near top corner. Really, really good finish, win the game 2-1. That puts them sort of a bit more comfortable in 3rd position in the league. That concludes game week 32 and 33 results, guys. There's loads to talk about there. Just going to move on to some of the fixtures from game week 34. Won't talk about everything, just to sort of touch on 2 or 3 the big games, if you like, or the crunch games. First game is talk about Friday night, Southampton versus Leicester. Big game for Leicester. If they can win that game, I give them clear daylight in terms of them in 4th position, and also put a bit of pressure on Manchester United as well going into their game against Liverpool at the weekend. What other games can we talk about? Everton versus Aston Villa, that'd be an interesting game actually, because I'm sure some of you will know, some of you won't, but Everton and Aston Villa both got, I think, 6 games left this season and you've yet to play each other. So there was obviously a game that was cancelled earlier in the season through probably COVID related issues or FA Cup or something like that. So they've got to play each other twice. Everton obviously in the hunt for Champions League. If they win their game in hand, they go on to 55. They go, I think, in and around, maybe to 5th, maybe 6th actually, because of West Ham's goal difference is slightly better. So that's a crucial game for them. Moving on to Sunday, you've got Man United versus Liverpool. Obviously this game speaks for itself, but what we'll say is Man United have got a huge semi-final in the Europa League, first leg match. So obviously that's probably going to take more of a priority. Whether they play a bit of a mixed match team, I wouldn't be surprised against Liverpool. I know it's a big game, but the priority is the semi-final against Roma, and obviously they've got the second leg after the Liverpool game as well, so they probably want to rest a few players there as well. And then on Monday we've got a couple of good games as well. We've got Burnley versus West Ham. The way Burnley are playing at the moment, that could be a bit of a goal fest potentially as well. And obviously West Ham, they might have 1 or 2 players back. Cresswell possibly is obviously massively important in terms of their set pieces, and also just an open play when they transition across to the left hand side, and you can sort of cross from a deep position from there, from their centre half. But also if they have Declan Rice back or Antonio as well, that's obviously going to add more goal threat and more solidity in the midfield as well. Yes guys, okay, that concludes another episode of the Premier League Appetiser Show. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. It does help my channel grow a little bit more, it reaches more people. Please do drop it a like, that's the key to these videos guys. If you drop a like, it lands on people's feeds a bit more, it helps with the YouTube algorithm as well. Obviously you guys have had opportunities to comment as well, leave it below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Over and out, we'll see everyone next time.